girls campus. My name is Leah. And I love my family. And they're so funny. And enjoy the video. And I love you. Bye.
So that was my little sister. She wanted to film the intro, so I let her. I hope you enjoyed that. She's really cute. She's really fun, as you can tell. But thank you so much for coming back to my channel as we continue to go through the book of Esther. If you haven't been watching this series, click the link down below so you can watch the first 2 videos and get caught up. But if you are returning, thank you so much for being here as we continue to go through this book and as we get onto chapter 3. So a little tiny bit of an overview. Last week we talked about how Esther had the favor of God and how God put her in the position to be queen. So now we kind of switch from focusing on Esther and we kind of get to see some things that are happening around her. And that's kind of where chapter 3 starts off. We see in chapter 3 that there's a man named Haman. And Haman is put into a place of power. It says that the king basically promotes him. So he gets a job promotion and he is now in a lot of power. So Haman is going to be one of the main characters in this story. He's actually going to be our antagonist. And so today we're going to understand why he's our antagonist and we're going to understand what we can learn from Haman's actions and how God reacted to them. So let's go ahead and start off. So as I said before, Haman, he came to power, and unfortunately, Haman is a prideful person. So what really happens when people come to power and they're prideful? They want people to recognize it. They want people to acknowledge their power. They want people to basically just be like, wow, you're really cool because you have power. And Haman, unfortunately, is that kind of person. So it comes to the point basically where Mordecai, which if you remember is Esther's cousin, who is also somehow in some way part of the king's court because he's allowed into the king's gate, he pretty much has an encounter with Haman where Haman is, since now in this power, people start bowing to him and showing him respect in that way, but Mordecai does not. And so this is where our story starts. Mordecai does not bow down to Haman, and it causes a problem for Haman, and we will see what he does about this problem. So let's start off in verses 5 and 6. It says, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. So like I said, Haman, he's prideful, so if people don't acknowledge his power, if people don't show him respect, he is pretty upset about it. And so he's upset that Mordecai will not bow down to him, and he's even more upset to find out that Mordecai is a Jew and is not bowing down to Haman. And we could really get into the pride here. We could really get into the fact that Haman is a mess and is very insecure about himself and all that stuff, but we're not going to focus on that because I wanted to focus on something a little bit different. But we see that this is the cause of Haman's rage. And the interesting thing it says is like he scorned the idea of only killing Mordecai. Instead, he wanted to kill all the Jews. So little side note, pride, when you are stuck in pride, it really clouds your vision. I mean, Haman to want to kill Mordecai is bad enough, but instead he wants to kill all of Mordecai's people. So what he does is he goes to the king in in verses 8 and 9, and he says, then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrators for the royal treasury. Haman goes to the king, and he's like, hey, there's this group of people who are bad and they don't follow your rules, and it's not in your best interest to tolerate them, which I think is such a weird way to put it. But he goes to the king, and the king kind of like, okay, well, do what you want to do with them. The king, not very smart. He didn't really do research and find out who the Jews actually were. He was just like, okay, Haman, whatever you say, which is crazy. And so this is what Haman says in verses 13 and 14. We have the decree that goes out to the land, and it says, dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to kill and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality so they would be ready for that day. So I kind of skipped a few verses, I kind of jumped around, and I kind of showed you the cause of Haman's hatred, what he did about it, and what the effect of it would be. So pretty much Haman is so upset and so mad that Mordecai will not bow down to him that he wants to kill the Jews. And he's going to be successful at it. A day is set for the Jews to be annihilated. And unfortunately, due to King Xerxes' inability to go and do research, he literally just let Haman decree the killing of millions of people for no reason other than Haman was upset and he had power to do what he's doing. So I want to really focus on this one thing that the Lord showed me that I was like, wow, I've never seen it like that before. So there's a lot of things we could focus on. We could focus on Haman's pride. We could focus on Haman's hate. We could focus on King Xerxes' inability to be a good king and like do research. But the one thing I want to focus on is the decree that these Jews were going to die. A day was set. I don't know how that would make me feel. I would probably be very upset and very stressed and very worried if I knew that on a certain day I was going to die and it was going to be final, and my children, if I had children, would die, and my mom and dad would die, all that stuff. Like, that's crazy. And so I'm thinking about the mindset of the Jews during this time because they would receive these decrees. We saw in the very first chapter when they sent out the decrees about women obeying their husbands, like these people, they get them and they're in their own tongue so that they can hear them, they can understand them, they can know them. And so now these people are finding out like, oh my gosh, on this day I'm gonna die. Like, this is final. This is a law. And if you remember from the very first chapter, it says that any law sent out by the king cannot be repealed. And I remember kind of pointing that out, but remember that this was a law. This was something that could not be repealed, and it wasn't going to be repealed. It was going to happen. And so I just want to really focus on that because in this life, there are things that are permanent. It's like, okay, this is it. This is the only thing that's going to happen. There's no way to get around this. It's official. It's final. And this was official, and it was final. And so this is what I want to focus on. Life and the things in this life are official, and they are final, and they are permanent. But the thing is, you have to remember that our God does not work by the rules of this world. He does not pay attention to the laws of the men of this world. He is not confined by what the world says is permanent and what the world says is final. And as we continue in chapters 4 and 5 and 6 and through the rest of the book, we will see that God had a different plan for the Jews. And he would use people, and he would do things that would amaze the Jews and that amaze us as we read it. And so I know this video was kind of a little bit everywhere, but I just want you to focus on the fact that this life seems permanent. Things in this life are official, they're final, they're done, but God does not work by the rules of this life, and he is working in your life. And something in your life that may seem final, may seem official, may seem inescapable, that's nothing compared to God. That is not too much for the Lord to work through, not too much for God to get through. Because if he wills something in your life and if he has something for you, there will be nothing that can stop him. Not the rules of this world, not the laws that men put out, not the hate that people give to each other. God can work above that, and he will work above that in your life. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I never really noticed that before when I've read the book, and I just think that it's so awesome that no matter what we go through, if it seems inescapable, final, official, permanent, God can be above that. And nothing is permanent, nothing is inescapable, nothing is too hard for the Lord. So keep that in mind as you go through this week. Get prepared for what we're going to see God do through Esther's life. I hope you are being inspired. I hope this is helping you to want to know who God is more, the God that works on your behalf, the God who is above all things in this world that we are just plagued by. And he is above that. And so I just want to encourage you guys. I thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Please leave comments down below if you have any video suggestions, anything like that. We're going to finish through the book of Esther, but if there's anything else you want to see in specific, let me know. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, a great year, a great life. Be blessed. Adios.